teenage girl.
Oh, no.
It is absolutely ridiculous. So anytime there's an announcement happening within the school district, my phone rings off the hook for like 10 minutes straight.
That's because we have 4 kids in the school district.
I only need one call. That's fine. One call, that's all. Send me a text message. But no, I call, get text message, I'll get emails. It's ridiculous. So they're making effort to make sure parents know what's going on. But man, it is. It's like a teenage girl trying to call somebody.
We're live.
Welcome to another episode of Spilling Ink that takes you behind the book.
Wait, you're all broken up, Katie. Hang on a second.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, let me intro real quick. I've just got to open email so I know what to say at the intro to our show, which I guess maybe I should probably know. But
wow.
Yes, welcome to Spilling Ink. We're very, very happy to have everyone here. So let me do this.
Hi, everybody.
Searching in Gmail.
All this time
Yes.
I knew what to say.
Yes, I know, but you're all garbly. Garbledy-gook. Oh man, where did it go? Okay, here we go. Here we go. Okay, this is Spilling Ink. You're watching Spilling Ink with Katie, Jason, and Jane. That actually wasn't in the script. I added that there. But I do want to say a special thank you to our sponsor, Creative Edge Publicity. That's what I was looking up to make sure I didn't misrepresent them. Creative Edge, your brand, your future. Creative Edge are advocates of collaboration and believers in partnerships in the ever-changing literary industry. And we really appreciate them making it possible for us to have this beautiful video platform and supporting the audio podcast as well. So thank you very much, Creative Edge Publicity. So yes, and now on with the show. Katie, are we fixing connection issues? How's it looking on your end?
Am I still breaking up over here?
Oh, that's better.
It's better. It's a little better.
Marginally.
Yeah.
Murphy's Law. It's always Murphy's Law over here.
Hey, I'm just happy it's not me tonight.
And of course, we do the show live, so all mistakes are out there for everyone to see.
Well, I actually think that's a lot more fun. Do you remember the first couple of years we actually used to edit these bad boys and edit them so they were as perfect as they could be and then put them out? But it was like, that was no fun. And I feel like these live shows are more authentic because, like, yeah, this is who we are. I mean, you get to see the perfection that I embody, and then, everybody else just kind of doing their thing. And
you know what? It does speak to the nature of the way we created the show. We wanted to go behind them and actually meet the people who are in publishing. And the best way to meet them is have just casual conversation rather than a hard interview.
Katie, you're cracking me up, dude. Every fourth word is cutting out, Katie. I'm so sorry. Well, so I guess I'm doing this. So you all know our amazing hosts, Katie and Jane. We're also joined tonight by Kristine Raymond. Kristine, how are you?
Good. I'm good. Hi, everybody.
And also Jenn Taylor. And Jenn, I don't know that I know you. Have you been on before?
No, you don't know me. This is my first time.
Awesome.
With the mighty Jason Lavelle.
Yes. I was thinking the mighty Joe King or whatever the big gorilla movie.
Oh yes, that's correct.
I don't know what
Joe
the
Young.
is. Joe Young.
Yes, thank you.
Well, since we have some guests tonight, let's hear a little bit from them about kind of who they are and what you like to write. Jenn, you want to go first?
I have one book that I've published. It's a self-help memoir. So I wrote about memoir. Yeah, I just like to say the word. Yeah.
I like it.
It's about my life. It's supposed to help you in yours. That's pretty much the gist. So I grew up with a lot of dysfunction and some pretty tough stuff. So I wrote about that. And also in retrospect, we build a toolbox without realizing it when we're going through stuff that's really tough. People can probably relate to that today. And so it was one, to make people feel less alone, and two, to help people recognize that we're building a toolbox. And this is mine. And if that helps, that's great. So I also have a podcast, website. I'm a coach and a speaker. So
what's your podcast?
My podcast is called The Naked Podcaster. Awesome. I'm 3 years old on May 2nd of 2020. Yeah, thanks. It's coming up in a month.
And what makes it a naked? What makes it the naked podcast? Like you're open and raw with your feelings, or you're actually in the nude doing it?
No, I'm in the nude. Yeah, I'm in the nude.
I didn't know that
So-
was a thing we were doing. All right, guys, let's do this.
I didn't say you were in the
No,
nude. I said I was in the nude.
Nobody
No,
wants
no,
to see
no, no,
that.
no.
You know, when I wrote the book, like 3.5 years ago, and it was a great accomplishment to be an author. I was proud of myself. I wanted to help everybody be an author. And that was a square peg in a round hole. I didn't know where I fit in that world, which is interesting because that's what I do as a virtual assistant. I'm actually a coach to help people get their books written. I manage people's book projects through a publishing company. So it's interesting that ended up happening as a side note, but it just wasn't working for me. I created these huge meetup groups and nothing was going anywhere. So my husband's best friend had a successful podcast and he's like, you should start a podcast, and he handed me a microphone. So I did. So the premise is exactly the same as my book. We talk a lot about who you are and what your struggle is. The Naked Podcast regime is actually different than the Naked Podcaster. The Naked Podcast is in the UK, and it's two women who talk about sexual issues. I'm not wearing the scary mask. So
No, he was talking about me.
oh, you. Yeah. Okay. If you want to be naked with your scary mask, that's fine.
Do you,
Like,
do you
this
have
is-
a scary mask that you use too?
No, I don't. So I wasn't sure. I'm like, okay, this is somebody who knows something that I don't. So the podcast is the same premise as my book. Basically, you're sharing your story of struggle, and then we figure out what tools you built in that, the who, what, when, where, how you got or continue to get through your struggle. Also, entrepreneurs, 100% of them somehow birth their business from their struggle. And I love to make that connection. So that's the Naked Podcaster. So you're bearing it all emotionally, and I bear it all physically.
Okay.
And it is
Well-
video. As of January of 2020, I went to video. And so, yeah, I'm
Well-
naked.
Well, and so the podcast is more of you trying to coach people what they're going through. Is that correct?
Not exactly. It's their past story of struggle. Generally, it's
Okay.
not something more current. Although if it's somebody who has extreme anxiety, it's not like you wave a magic wand, it's one and done, and
Yeah.
you're good to go. So sometimes people are still continuing on with that struggle, but it's how they manage it, how they did in the past when it was really huge. For me, my struggle was growing up in dysfunction. Anything you imagine that a foster care went through, that's what I grew up going through. So it was just one story, and I love the story.
And your book, your memoir, and I
My
feel like I've
memoir.
been saying it memoir my whole life, and oh god, man, I've missed so many great opportunities to sound classy. And so your book, is that in that same vein as well? Then that same idea.
Yeah, I base the podcast off of how I wrote my
Okay.
book.
Okay.
So, and in a way, when you come on with me in an hour, you're writing your book in an hour. I mean, the podcast episode is sharing your story the same way I did in my book. So I know I'm a very different author from everyone else here today, because I wrote about everyone before was talking about, I've got to figure out the storyline. And I'm like, well, I was born and then I ended it when I was 21.
Well, it's
So
and it's funny as I'm actually going to be, because I've written only fiction so far. Yeah, there we go. I've
so
written
you want a
only-
memoir now?
Well, and I'm actually kind of planning it out. I'm beginning the outline right now in my head for because I want to do it as a project in probably another 2 years. Only I want to do it as an audio memoir. So I'll write the whole thing out, in long form, and then record it and kind of release it a little bit at a time for people who are interested. But so I'm definitely going to read that. I'm trying to pick up more and more memoirs now, so that I can really understand how people write them and what seems to work and what doesn't. Because some of them I'm just like, oh, this is interesting, but it's kind of boring at the same time. But other times you get into it and like, okay, this person really has a background in writing and knows how to move this, even though it is talking nonfiction about their own life. So, well, Kristine,
Hey.
I know you. We've had you
I
on
know you.
before, but tell us a
Yes.
little bit about who you are, what you write.
Well, I am Kristine Raymond, and I have written 16 books so far in multiple genres. I do have a little nonfiction book out. It's called Write Words, A Year in the Life of an Indie Author, which is about my first year as an indie author. And I glance through it every once in a while now, and it just like, what I thought I knew then and what I know now. Yeah. My most recent was a cozy mystery. I started out writing romance, historical Western romance, and then I went into contemporary romance and I wrote an erotic drama. And then I decided I really kind of needed a break, and I decided to write a thriller. Except as I was writing it, it sort of made its way into a cozy mystery instead of a thriller. And I decided I really, really liked that. And so that is finagled. And I'm working very slowly on the second book in that series because my time lately has become preoccupied with my podcast that I've had for a year and a half, and then the new podcast that I just launched yesterday. And that just doesn't leave a lot of time for writing, and I'm not sure why that is. I mean, podcast, simple. You talk to somebody and you put it up. Yeah, right.
That's what everyone thinks. No one ever knows what goes into it in the background.
I know.
I wish it was that. I was editing an episode today that it's a phenomenal episode, but it was a really tough edit. There was a lot of little stuff that had to be cut out, and so it's like I'm on my computer for 3 hours staring at these audio files, like, oh my God, just kill me now, just be done. But yeah, it's not easy.
Somebody posted in a excuse me, in a group the other day, and they were commenting on a picture that someone else had posted where somebody's sitting in a computer editing a podcast, and the comment was, do people really spend time editing their podcasts? I'm like, well, I do. I mean, it can take me anywhere from 2 to 4 hours to edit a 25-minute podcast. And that's just taking out the taking out the big gaps of empty space, and maybe doing something with, if there's a lot of background noise. I mean, I don't really cut out big portions of it because I like my show to be as natural as if it were live. I just like to have the option to cut out the ums or the dog barking in the background or something like that.
Right.
And everyone has their own unique That's an interesting thing too. And then today I had I was fishing for the elusive and or ands, and that little combination. They're great. I mean, it's like two little D's stuck together. It's awesome. Yeah, special.
Well, and you can, when you're looking at the audio files, I can always spot an before I hear it, just by how it looks on the audio file.
Oh yeah.
So yes, so that's wordplay with Kristine Raymond. That's my audio podcast. I chat with other authors about their books and their writing, and I had Jenn on the show, and actually, Jason, you're coming up later this year, and
May, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's very, very casual, and authors get to just be themselves. And I release 2 new episodes every Wednesday. And then yesterday was the premiere of The Felonious Scribe, which I co-host with author Dawn Hosmer. And that is a mystery-based show where viewers send us in a question. Like yesterday's question was, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, it was, how do people as nice as you write such heinous bad guys, and how do you sleep at night?
I love it.
We spent about 20 minutes chatting about that and did the show, and it's just really a lot of fun. So yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell. Very big nutshell, but yeah.
I like it. That's like a walnut.
Yeah,
those are the good ones, right?
It's like a coconut,
Oh, well, everybody knows everything there is to know about me, but Jane and Katie, Katie, you could pantomime. Do you guys have anything you want to mention at the start of the show today?
Well, our book Beneath got almost into, it was in the 200s on all of Amazon store and in the number 2 spot for a couple days because of a book bub ad.
Hey, congrats.
Awesome.
Thanks. And we made a bestseller tag on Barnes & Noble and number 4 on
Sweet.
iTunes.
That's
so we
amazing.
did really well with Beneath. So
Great job, you two. And
so
the
that
cover,
was like, yes.
the cover is
then
amazing.
And then on April 1st, I have Spindle coming out, which is the 7th book in the Fractured Fairy Tale series. So
I really dig that series because you get nice little bite-sized stories, and the story behind the story. Seeing it in a new twist is always fun.
yes, thank you very much.
Am I
Katie's
still
not good
completely
at
breaking
that.
No, you're not too bad. You're a little bit warbly, but I can understand you. Sorry, I'm over here trying to look up Jenn's podcast. It looks like there's a YouTube channel and there's the audio podcast. Is that right?
Everything's on the YouTube channel.
Okay.
I mean,
Cool.
basically, I'm on 34 platforms, so you can find me
Wow.
anywhere, and
That's
my
cool.
website.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah,
If
the
you,
Naked Podcaster.
shoot us a link and we'll make sure it's into the description for Tim's YouTube. Though.
Cool.
You want the YouTube link?
Yeah,
Sure.
link you want
YouTube-
us to share.
Sure.
Sorry, Katie, you're broken up again.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
like,
it's
so
just
sorry.
I don't know how to answer.
I'm so
I'm
sorry.
feeling a lot of
your
pressure
internet
about that.
connection
We-
is very, very
We heard.
slow.
I
I'm
feel
gonna
edit
try
flashbacks.
and back out and come back in. You guys have fun. I'll back.
Yeah, get
Okay.
out of here. Come back later. Well, guys, it's not a show unless we have some kind of technical difficulties, right? Really?
I know,
Really?
I know.
That's right.
Oh.
You're right.
All right, so Lauren Feria was asking what editing software we use. I personally have used several different ones. You know, I'm on a Mac. It comes with GarageBand, so if you're in a pinch, you can use GarageBand. I like Audacity though. What about you, Jenn? What do you use? Pro Tools? Or?
I used Adobe Audition when it was an audio podcast, but I also have a Mac. So now that the podcast is video, I'm using iMovie.
Oh, wow.
And I just decided from the beginning, one, because I couldn't afford to hire somebody to do editing. It's really expensive. And video editing is a whole nother level. And
Oh.
also because I was cool with I like the straight run, like Kristine was saying. So yeah, I could nitpick it to death and pick stuff out of it. I just decide not to. So, I mean, basically I do a straight run, and unless I've had people change diapers on the podcast. I've had somebody, that was the most unique. I've had someone who, had somebody ring the doorbell with a delivery. If something like that happens, I mark the time and I cut that out. But unless it's something like that, my podcast is a straight shot. I put the intro on that I pre-record. I pre-record the intro, guys. I pre-record the intro.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know. But you're live, so actually you wouldn't be able to do that the same way. But I add my intro, I clean it up in iMovie, and I upload it. It's pretty raw. So someone from an editing standpoint, it would drive them crazy. But it's so expensive, or it's so time consuming that it wasn't worth it. It was either have the podcast or drive myself nuts, and I would rather have the podcast. So
yeah, well, and with Spilling Ink, that's how we do it. I mean, it's recorded live, so it just goes out as it is. And the other show that I do, Unafraid, it'll be a guest speaker that's telling their a lot of times their life story, and I will actually insert little bits of narration here and there in it. So I do need to go through a lot more thorough, unfortunately, because it takes a lot of time. But it's just kind of a fun project too. So even if I am spending a few hours on the couch doing it, in the end I'm like, oh well, I'm really happy with that turned out. But I'll tell you what, I am so happy that we do this live now and just put it out the way it is, because like, wow, we can enjoy ourselves without fighting back and forth throughout the weekend. Okay, who's gonna edit it this week?
Right. I use
Remember,
Audacity for the audio podcast, and I really like that. And
that's probably what I would have used if I hadn't used Audition.
yeah, and then I just taught myself how to use After Effects for the video.
Oh,
And that was actually to create the graphic for the video. The video that Dawn and I did together actually had no editing at all. We just did a straight run. I just put the intro and the closing credits on it.
okay.
In After Effects. But yeah, making that graphic was pretty cool. I had fun with that. I was proud of that.
Well, and After Effects is one that I'd love to get. I have Final Cut Pro on this, just because years and years ago I bought it for $300 because we needed it for a work project for Heather's studio, and so I had it. And I was like, well, I'll just use this family videos that we make and everything like that. And it's a really cool program. But I'll tell you what, if you're if you're just getting into doing something for video or just want something that's simple and easy, man, iMovie really does the
Yeah.
work. It does it. It works. And but After Effects is something that I would like. I just can't afford it just yet.
They had a really great Black Friday sale last year. That's the only reason I
Oh,
got
okay.
it. They offered the 20 app set for like one price, and it was only like $150 more than what
Whoa.
Photoshop was alone.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just really cool.
That's amazing.
It's a good deal.
Unless you're really getting into editing sound or video, if you if you're not like an engineer, you know what I mean? Like there's a level, like you are, I would never use everything in GarageBand, and it's totally overwhelming. So it just didn't make sense for me to go in that direction at all. I'm not that picky, one, which is, I mean, that's a good and a bad thing, but also I don't want to learn that level. And so, yeah, they're big programs. So I think people like get the big program because it's the one that they should get, or it's the most popular and they pay for it. And it's so completely overwhelming.
Oh yeah.
So that's why I went with Adobe Audition. It was really simple to learn on, and it did everything.
Well,
Did everything that.
I used to have Final Cut too, but mostly for scripting, but
Oh.
it's on my old defunct computer.
Oh yeah. Well, and the cool thing now is that, I mean, at least with Apple stuff, and I think most PC stuff as well, once you buy it now, I mean, you can download it to whatever machine you want in the future, you know, as you move on. So it's like, okay, well, I spent $300 on this 8 years ago. I'm still using it today. It's not too terrible. And,
Yeah.
But yeah, they're such big problems, just like Photoshop. My wife is a professional photographer. She is an expert with Photoshop, but she still maybe only uses 10% of what that program can do. They're just,
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
they're
There's so
behemoths.
I will admit, I was really sad though when Windows got rid of Windows Movie Maker, because I used
That was a
a
good
lot.
program.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. I think my
Wrong
cat
button.
just.
No,
I think,
I was going to hit mute. Wrong button.
I thought my cat kicked you out. Sorry about that.
No, that was me. I moved the mouse and it went over the wrong thing. I'm like,
Oh.
don't touch it.
Well, Mike Faria asked me something. That sounds pretty cool, Jason. I'd like to see some of those. Are any available? I'm not sure.
That was
Mike,
for your podcast.
Oh, Unafraid. Mike, just type in Unafraid into wherever you listen to podcasts on. You'll see it's a little square pride flag, and it says Unafraid across it. But yeah, there's I will warn you, man. The shows on there are very, very intense. They're not goofy, funny shows. They're, you know, people who have lived through some real darkness, and they're talking about it. So yes, it's not a lighthearted show. Just to warn you going in.
Yeah, mine's not really. I mean, I think we have fun, and there's a lot about it that's lighthearted. But you know, if I have a guest, the hardest guest for me, or the most difficult guest, was the woman who told me how starting at age 9, her dad raped her until she was 20. I mean, like, we talk about the toughest stuff in people's lives. That's what I talk about. I'm interviewing you on that and how you got through that. And so, you know, whether it's an eating disorder, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's tough stuff. And really, we try to laugh a lot, even in the midst of all of that, and really focus on the positives that came out of a super negative situation. And mine's explicit. It's explicit for content. It's explicit because I let people swear. We're talking about crap like that. You can swear. So I don't get, you know,
Well,
so.
Jenn, it's one of those kinds of things when you're talking about stories of trauma, like you are, or on my show. There's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of bigotry and hatred that has happened to a lot of the people that come on. Thank you very much, Joe. You know, it is a special show to me, but I think that these are the things that are the most important things to talk about, because it lets other people hear or see those stories, and you know, so not only are we bringing them to light, but, you know, for the LGBTQ community, we're also normalizing these stories for anyone else that might hear it. So that, you know, if you're walking down the street and you see someone that's not quite like you or doesn't have the same lifestyle as you, you're not freaking out, and you know that you can behave like a respectful human. You know, just like someone who's experienced a trauma, you need to treat them with respect, and as any fellow human should. But so I think those are very important things, even though they may be difficult to to talk about or to hear a lot of times. Now, why does your YouTube profile say mom of 18? Do you have 18 children?
I do have 18 children. Yes. My website's momof18.com. Yeah,
Oh,
I
my
have 18 children.
goodness.
See, we didn't even. I'm here because I'm an author.
You have to listen to her episode on my show, and then you'll hear all that.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Okay, that's true.
Okay.
Yes, I
All
have
right.
18 children. We have 18 kids. Yep. And
Okay.
my website's momof18.com. So the podcast is there. Information about the book is there. I've had a blog for 8.5 years. Yeah. Yep. 18 kids. That's all.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, it's a beautiful cover photo. I
Thank
think
you.
YouTube is awesome.
Thank you. I use that one on everything. It was 3.5 years ago. It was at Christmas time. So maybe it's been 4 years. I don't know. I will probably never use a different one. One, because there's 14 kids in that picture and getting that many together is nearly impossible. And also I lost one of my sons that's in that picture. So he can't be in another picture ever. He went missing 7 months after that picture was taken. So, the photo means a lot to me for several different reasons. And yeah, momof18.com. Yeah. Who just put that up?
Oh, just random.
Yeah.
Random people out there
Like,
in the gallery.
I'm seeing some pop up. Yeah. No, it's momof18, momof18.com. Yep.
Wow.
Yep, you can find it. Yeah. And so, that was writing my book. I did foster care for 12 years, and then I worked in the foster care industry, and I related to those kids because there's nothing they've been through that I didn't. So, my story was pretty tough, like a lot of people, not more or less so than anyone else's, but it's mine. And when I wrote the book, it was just about that and about my struggle. But definitely you can tell from my story why I wanted to do foster care. And we have 5 adopted and 5 kids that aged out. And I had 4 biological. And then I was divorced and I met my husband, and he had 4 kids and his wife had died. So we have 8 biological, but 4 are his and 4 are mine. And we don't talk stepkids and foster kids and adopted kids and long-term kids, but to break it down, yeah, that's how it goes. So
Wow.
18 of them.
Wow. And I thought 4 was a lot.
It is. It's not a competition. One's a lot. It doesn't matter. We're not. And I want to say this because somebody made a comment the other day, like people are churning out books like crazy. What's the matter with me? I've written 1 and I'm working on number 2. I wrote 1 in 2 months, and number 2 is taking, I don't know how long it's going to take, but not 2 months because I passed that. So here's the thing. It's not a competition that Jane wrote 17 or Kristine wrote 20 or it's not. You're an author or you're an author, right? And you're a parent. You have a podcast. It doesn't make any difference. And the less we think about it as a competition and more as a resource for each other, the better off we'd be. I mean, if you have 4 kids and think you can't talk to me because I have 18, I've had more times to fail. That's basically, I've figured out a lot of stuff because I've had way more opportunity to fail at things and fail forward and really try to do a great job. Same thing with the podcast, same thing with the book. So, saying, oh, you've written so many books, I'm such a failure because I haven't. That's kind of a load of crap.
Yeah.
In my opinion. I'm pretty mouthy, but
no. I was listening to a show a couple weeks back. It's a show by Carrie Ann Stewart, and I can't quote her verbatim, and I won't try because I'll completely mess it up. But it was all about shame, and how we judge other people and how much we can shame them to determine our own self-worth a lot of time, and how that's a process that we can stop by actively not doing that in our brains by, okay, well, this person is worse than me because they've done this or they do this or they believe that. And it's kind of the opposite of what you were just saying about, this person has this much stuff and I don't. But, there's a lot of bad habits going on in our brains that we can all certainly work on. But yes, and Jane, your 60 books are intimidating. They are. They are.
I will. Let me do.
Hey,
But
I
it
just
doesn't
remind
make
myself.
me any better than Jen.
what's that?
It does not make me any better than you. We're writers.
Right.
You know?
Well, it's different.
Right. And I write fiction. I have written
Yeah.
a fictionalized memoir, but not, so.
And I have one sex scene written for a potential fiction or not. It might be fiction. I don't know. I am naked on my podcast. So.
Hang on, let me scroll through these YouTube videos and see that.
So if I wanted to expand that, I would contact one of you guys because you're automatically a resource for me.
Absolutely.
And if we see each other more like I'm mom of 18, I'm a resource if you're a parent. I can guarantee I'm a resource. Yes, my oldest biological daughter is 28 on April 8th, and I've been doing this for a really long time. And you know what I mean? I'm good. We have cookies. I'm sorry, I was distracted by the squirrel moment just happened.
Like
Cookies. Sorry, we have cookies.
I'm like,
I didn't get any cookies.
Look, all I can do is the chat today. So
I just like to remind myself that like Harper Lee had only put out one book up until a couple of years ago or last year. She's an author. She had one book, To Kill a Mockingbird. So
yeah,
it doesn't really matter how many you have out or what you do or
right.
And we all take the same steps to get there. We all sit down and pour our hearts out onto the page.
Yeah. Exactly. But the comment about I only have 4 kids was great because somebody made a comment about, not being good enough because they haven't written as many books as Jane or as Kristine. And I'm like, I wrote one and I'm just as good. I just haven't written as many. I'm still an author.
Right.
We're all in the same category.
Yeah.
but you make a really, really good point, though.
Okay.
You make a real point, though, about
hear you, Katie.
resources.
Yeah. We're resources for each other.
And I can tell you, I to Jane probably weekly.
Yeah.
And ask her to soundboard for stories I'm running into problems with because she has written so many and she's an excellent resource.
Right. Yeah. And, worst case scenario, when you reach out to somebody to be a resource and they're not able to help you or not willing to help you or whatever the situation is, there are others. There are others. It's just looking at it completely not as a competition, not as I'm not as good as or good enough. That's just such crap.
Or I'm better than anybody else.
Right.
It goes that way too. Because
Yeah.
no one is better than anybody else.
No
one is less than anyone else.
That's so true. So we're very different. So yeah, I have 18 kids. That's it. So I'm that crazy.
Being willing to be a resource.
You have time to write a single book for these.
Well, let's talk about time a little bit, can we? People ask me how I do. I ran 7 miles this morning. How I got up at 6. I get up at 4:30 during the week. I do it because I love it and it's a priority and I want to. And I think we prioritize the things that are important. We were pre-gaming and talking about how, everybody is binging Netflix and talking about that because those people that are not able to work right now during this whole crisis have a lot of time on their hands. Guys, like time is the biggest gift you can ever, that's the biggest gift you can ever get. So it's not about how much time or I'm overwhelmed with time. It's what you want to do with that time. And if you want to write a book, now is the time because you have the time, right? So, that's a big deal. How do I have the time? We carve it out. I don't watch TV almost ever. We haven't had cable for years. I'm a minimalist, so I have to clean less. I mean, whatever my priorities are or your priorities are, it allows us to do the things that are the most important to us. And we all have time to do the things that are the most important to us. So I think it's a matter of determining what's the most important and carving out the time because we do it. That's how I wrote my book. That's how you've written 17 and worked a full-time job. Preach. So sorry, I'm very soapboxy, but I mean, really, there's no excuse. If I can do it, you can do it. If Jane could do it, you could do it. If Kristine did it, you can do it. So that's just the way it is. You have to prioritize it. And if you need time management skills, all of us probably have a great take on how we managed our time to be able to do those things. So I don't edit podcasts. I don't take the time. I'm not that picky and it's not worth my time. I don't do it.
I like it.
Yes.
You could host the whole show, Jen.
I'm
I
sorry.
Like
I'm sorry.
It's great. It's great.
No, these are things
This-
that we need to hear.
Well,
we
and
absolutely need our audience to hear these things.
Yeah.
people asked where the extroverted authors were, and I'm like, what? Are there like there's Jane and I? We're in. That's it. We've arrived. Yeah, I had 18 kids. I did a lot of time management stuff. You build a skill set when you work a corporate job, which I also did, and you kind of compile those. It's the same thing as the podcast. What tools have you built in your toolbox? And if you're not good at time management, then talk to somebody who is, because they'll help you map something out that works for you, where you get to write that book or start that podcast. And there's so many resources. It can be overwhelming when you're trying to be the Google master, but somebody like Kristine or myself or Jason who has a podcast, I could tell you in 5 minutes how to start a podcast. We just talked about what we use for editing. It doesn't have to be that hard if you look at people as resources and you carve out the time, because it's just important. 20 minutes stints is a great idea with time management.
Well, and Julia actually hosts a lot of sprints. She just stayed with me for a week, my family and I, and it was great because she got me writing again. I hadn't written in over a month. I was in such a slump, and she was like, "Okay, well today at 2:00 we're doing a 20-minute sprint." And I'm like, "Okay, I guess I'll try that." And it worked out fine. And then the next day she was like, "Okay, we're doing this today." And so if anyone wants, if you just put into Facebook Flight of Furies, and Flight of Furies, and it's just a group that Julia and Three Furies runs, and they do sprints all the time, and it's just a great way to maybe there's a few other people on here writing for 10 or 20 minutes with me, and you can't see them, but it's like a little bit of camaraderie and a little bit of a group effort. It feels like.
And
so
anybody who has a competitive spirit likes sprints.
Yeah. I don't have. I'm not competitive, but I love accountability. It makes me feel like I made an appointment, and it's okay if it's an appointment with myself. I mean, I have my running on my calendar, and I've run the same schedule for over 5 years, but it's on my calendar. So it's an accountability issue too, but competitiveness is really good.
Yes. Yeah,
I'm not
I do have a little bit of a competitive spirit.
Oh, I maybe just a little.
I'm not competitive at all, but I find that I work better if I do set the alarm on my phone, whether it's for 20 minutes, 45 minutes, and then just focus on that one task and don't go down any rabbit holes. Don't get distracted by somebody sending me a message or whatever. It's like, okay, I'm going to edit for an hour. I set the timer for an hour. And then whether I'm finished or not, when that timer goes off, I get up, I move around, get something to drink, and then come back and either finish it or do another task for a set period of time. That's how I work the best.
Katie,
these are great ideas.
Yes.
Did you see the picture that Rebecca just sent you? Oh my God. Okay, well,
she didn't send it to me, so
I'll show you. I'll show you, okay?
No.
Oh.
You're hired. I need your information.
If only.
Take it on my show.
Oh my goodness, Richard White. Anyone else working on a pandemic storyline dystopian? Oh, I can't read it here. Oh, wait. Okay, so we've got two of them here. We got Richard White wants to know if anybody is writing a pandemic dystopian story time autobiography at this point. Not yet, but we'll see how this all plays out in a couple months. And then we have another runner here. Man, these runners are crazy. Oh my goodness.
Yay! We need to go running.
Speaking of running, have you read the memoir, Is My Crazy Showing by Lee Baker? Oh my God, that was her whole memoir on how she got ready for a marathon. And it is probably one of the funniest things I've read. And it deals with, she's a high anxiety person too. Okay. So Jason, you would probably sit there laughing your tail off.
It.
But yeah, running.
I tried to join the group, but if there were questions, the Facebook group, the Flight of Furies, if there were questions, somehow that went away. So it's pending with just my name, and I don't answer questions, apparently. I'm sorry about that. I don't know what I did or
I don't know. Maybe Julia, if you could look into whatever she's dealing with Flight of Furies. She's in charge of that.
I don't know about what happened there. Sorry about that.
Oh, Mike, no, man. You can't slow down because you think it's the end of the world. You got to quick get it out before the world ends.
What's really funny though is again, my writing has been slow, but just because I've been busy with the podcast. But somebody posted on Facebook that their characters have been in self-quarantine for a while. It's like, I like that one. That's what I'm going to use.
Well, see, I kind of feel like, does anyone remember that movie Troy with Brad Pitt and Orlando Bloom? Great. That was such a fun movie. Everyone was so gorgeous in that movie, really.
Right.
But I kind of feel like Achilles did, where I want to be remembered for something. I'm that person. So it's like, I got to keep putting out books until I get one that people are just going to remember. Yeah. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yep. I need that. Katie too. I could see that hand up.
I don't know. I guess I don't. I like the validation, but I don't need it.
Oh, I need it.
I think that's the extrovert. That's
I'm like, I want to know that if I put in the time and the effort, I made a difference to one person.
Right.
And I mean, that was it. That was it. That was my whole premise. Like, if I make someone else's journey a little bit easier, it was more than worth it. And that's the same thing with the podcast, because I'm just one story. So if you get a myriad of different stories about people's struggle, I have a higher likelihood of making someone else's journey a little bit easier. And we're all so unique, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So.
I'm sorry. Can you hear my cat?
Yes.
No.
If I focus on it.
I thought it was a kid, actually.
Well, he thinks he's a kid, and I think I'm going to have to let him in the room. Baron, be quiet. Sorry. Oh,
so Katie, what are we talking about today? I mean, we've got 19 minutes left.
Well, we talked about books. Let's talk about how to cope with the pandemic.
Ooh,
How is everybody coping?
Well, we are all going a little stir crazy at my house. Is anybody else going stir crazy?
No, not remotely.
No?
No.
A little bit, because I'm used to at least getting out and having some other human connections, but the reason I'm here is keeping me here, because it's saving lives. Yeah. And that's the positive of all of this, you know?
We're
I
going
told David that earlier, he's going stir crazy out where he is, because I think he's on lockdown, which is a little different than all of us. And I'm like, well, you know, find the fun and find the positive in everything, and try to let the negative of the news that's hitting you in your face every moment you turn it on not get inside your head.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just my advice from one extrovert.
I was a stay-at-home mom for 12 years, and then I went back corporate for over a decade, and then I launched my business 4 years ago, and I've worked from home. So I'm used to being at home, and I was used to being at home with my kids. I homeschooled them. We're planning that we'll have to homeschool, online school, the rest of this year. So I contacted my daughter, who's in 4th grade, contacted the teachers. I made sure I have all the stuff. We're setting up a plan. I had her write her own calendar. And my daughter, who's a senior in high school that's home, she's been online schooling. So I think, again, it's just a lot of perspective and attitude. I walk our dog every single day. So we're outside, and our backyard is huge, and we're right next to this like park that no one is ever at. And so I think just getting outside until we're told that we can't. I'm going outside every day. I'm not around people, but I'm going outside every day.
Yeah.
And when that closes in a little bit and it gets more difficult, and I'm assuming that will happen, I think we're just mentally preparing for that incrementally. But yeah, I'm one of those people that it doesn't serve anything to get super upset about it. So how can I best serve myself and everyone else? And that's by just rolling with it. So we're trying to make it fun. And at working from home, like Kristine and I were talking about before, I'm used to doing that, but also there are a lot of companies that are out of necessity going online and they're not sure how to. And that's what I've done the last 4 years. I do admin for companies and I do it from home. So it's like, hey, we've got this. It's like, how do I edit a podcast? Okay, I'll show you how to do this. It's not that hard. So I think people can use this as an opportunity of a lot of positivity in a very chaotic time where you can learn, one, new skills, and two, how to do business in a different way when possible. And there are a lot of positive things that we can get out of it, I think. And so for me, I'm like, oh, great. There are so many opportunities. This is so fun. But I think it is perspective and attitude and then what you're doing with your time. So if you have extra time, that's a gift. Say thank you and decide what you want to do with it. And if it's business, find resources and move forward. The online world has been so positive and so explosive this last week. It's really encouraging to me. I think it's really excellent.
I'm kind of a hermit anyway. I mean, we were talking about it before. Honestly, I only leave like once a month, and that's to do my grocery shopping. And I have enough food in the house that I didn't need to do that this month. So I really don't mind staying home. And again, I've got so much to do that, yeah, I'm sort of picking up the negative vibes if I stay on Facebook too long or start reading too many news articles. But I can't worry about what I can't do anything about. So all I can do is not be out in public, not put anybody at risk. The rest of it, I can't do anything about. So I'm really trying not to get caught up in the whole, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world panic. For me, life's the same as it was. And I'm thankful for that. I know a lot of people are dealing with a lot of stuff and, being out of work, not sure if they're going to have a job to go back to, because especially like for restaurant people,
right.
Restaurants are closed for a long time. They may not be able to reopen.
Right.
And things like that. So I just count my blessings that I am where I'm at and things are okay. And I just hope everybody, stays healthy.
There was a local radio station here that they have started in the morning highlighting locally owned, family owned restaurants, non-chains in the Reno area, because yes, they've had to cut back a lot. They're on a skeleton crew, but you can still do pickup orders. And so I was like, see, like this is the community coming together and doing shout outs for people who could otherwise lose their businesses. And I think that there's going to be a lot of that. And that's traumatic and sad. Batman, it's Batman. You've never seen Batman and I in the room together, so you can't prove it's not me. So that's, yeah. Sorry, I just saw a comment and answered. It was my Halloween costume one year. This is my Halloween. This is the whole thing. That's it. That's what I do. There are going to be a lot of companies that shut down, and it is tragic. It's also, we can't avoid that, but we can do things to build each other up. And when I heard that about restaurants that are local, I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to do takeout now, because I get to help in some small way, and so I think you need to look for those opportunities as they pop up, and just in every opportunity. If you have time on your hands, I just saw a listing. They're a company looking for people to read books and screenplays and rate them. And that's time maybe better spent than Netflix binging. So there are unique and odd opportunities coming up that haven't been that way before, and people just didn't have the time to do them, and now you do. So,
embrace it.
And speaking of having time, Joshua Pantelleresco, host of the Just Joshing podcast, who is wonderful, was commenting and asking what everyone has been reading on this quarantine time. Is anyone doing any fun reading?
I'm rereading The Stand by Stephen King. I can't help
Excellent.
it. I love
Excellent.
that book. I loved the miniseries, and it just seemed kind of appropriate. So, yeah.
Wonderful. And I've read actually read 2 Nora Roberts books, Year One and then or Year One or Year Zero, and then the next book, Blood and Bone, and both of those are kind of post-apocalyptic because a crazy plague has wiped everybody out. So those are pretty good.
I've been reading A Flutter of Darkness
Ooh, nice,
by
nice.
Jason. Yeah, between writing or whatever I've been doing lately, I've been picking that up. Yes.
Well, cool. And they're not as scary as your stories, but I
But
tried.
yes.
What about you, Katie and Jen? Katie, you don't have time to read. What about you, Jen?
I downloaded one of Kristine and one of Jane's books when we were doing our pre-gaming conversation. I support every one of my podcast guests. I've had over 150, and any of them that are authors, most of them don't have as many books. I mean, I was like, hey, Jane and Kristine, if I'm downloading one book, what one should it be? So those will be one of the next books. You know what? I can't keep track. Actually, I'm usually reading a couple at the same time. I am rereading Slight Edge right now, so I can rotate between books. And I'm also reading a book called Pussy, a Reclamation. So that one's really good. And I rotate through. And like I said, I've taken opportunities where you can read and rate screenplays and books. So I'll read anything that anybody sends to me, and I send my book to anybody who wants it. So I mean,
I'd love a copy of it.
Yeah, I'll send a PDF to anybody who wants one.
Sweet.
Speaking of that, a lot of authors have banded together to offer up as many free books
We are
as they
just the chattiest bunch tonight.
Joshua, just get in touch with me.
Yes. Go ahead, Katie.
We are chatty.
Can you guys hear me, or am I still completely?
Oh no,
You're
we
good.
can hear you.
Okay.
So we were pretending that whole time, Katie.
I can't hear Katie at all.
Ooh, okay.
Oh, I can hear her fine. Wait, talk.
All right,
Speak.
I'm speaking.
Oh, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Trying to read lips, but nope.
Can you
I can hear you.
I'll put it in the comments.
Yeah, no, I can hear you.
But say it too.
So can I.
Okay, so what I was saying is there's a lot of authors that have been coming out lately in the last week and just offering a lot of their books for free, or using their Amazon free days to make sure that their books are available for people to download and read.
Yeah.
And I've put a list together, and I welcome other authors to send me their books on katiesolitis.com, right there on the front page. If you have a free book or a deal, send it to me. I'll put it on my front page. That way we can share, more reads with other people who are all trapped inside right now.
Yep, that's Rebecca. I'll do that. I think that's great. I think that's awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of, you can capitalize on a lot of coaching programs right now. I've wanted to take this coaching program at $700, and I've known about it for like 2.5 years. I don't know how that much time went by, but it wasn't $700 I needed to spend. So I didn't. And I just saw a post like, hey, I'm offering for everybody for free. And I was like, yes, you know what I mean? So like, look at the coaches that are your favorite coaches or people that you follow, authors, a lot of people in this time. I mean, Willie Nelson concerts, there's all kinds of stuff out there to really help support and uplift people. So I love that you're doing that, Katie.
There's a website called Coursera where you can take free college courses from like all different schools.
I did that.
Even
too.
Ivy League schools, they offer them. So yeah, I mean, this is a really great opportunity, especially if you're either in a job that you don't like, or there's the risk that you may lose your job, or you just want to do something different. It's like, now's the time to learn. You have the time. I think everybody's kind of still shell-shocked a little bit, and it's kind of like when you get those unexpected snow days and it's like, okay, let's stay at home in our pajamas and binge watch Netflix or whatever. and that's okay maybe for a couple of days, but we could be facing this long term. So you can't do that for the next weeks, months, however long this is. It's like this is an opportunity to do something else.
Yep.
Whether it's, a new hobby or take courses and it doesn't have to cost money right now, because so many of these companies are offering free programs. And I mean, you can study the artists. I read one of the French museums is
Yes,
streaming the art.
they are. There's several museums. Yep.
Broadway plays. One of I can't remember any of these sites, but I read that one of them is live streaming like all these Broadway plays and stuff. So, I mean, and if you're not into that, there's the equivalent for anything out there. It's there.
Man, y'all are some motivated people, aren't you?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
The other thing that I would encourage people to do is really look around at what essential services are or essential jobs are, because there's a stigma about going to college and getting your degree. And I'm not anti that, but I'm not necessarily pro that either, because we've gotten away from how important and well-paying vocational jobs are. And now that we're looking at this situation from a different light, and the people that are essential services, my brother-in-law is a long haul truck driver, and they can't give him enough hours. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And, I think it's just a good opportunity to recognize in times of distress, the dental office is closing down. My dental office is closing down, but the long haul truckers can't get enough hours. Just be aware of who. Yeah, I know there's a lot of essential service now, but it's getting less and less. And just look at who they are. We need to thank them. And it shifted how some of my barely adult kids are looking at going to college. Like what you were saying, Kristine, you can actually do something else. And what do you want to do in a space that's changed quite a bit?
Right. And the thing about it is too, I believe that when this is over and different companies see how productive people were from working at home, because
yeah,
a lot of people, they do still have their jobs. They're just doing it in their basements or their living rooms or the bedrooms or whatever.
Right.
I really think that shift is kind of going to stick. And I think that there are going to be a lot more at home jobs. And it just, I don't know. Yes, this is something bad that's happened to us, but you really have to look at the good that can come out of it. And things are going to change. I mean, but change is inevitable too. Things change. Nothing stays the same. And I think that's why we react the way we do when there's this huge shakeup like this, because, we go through our lives and we expect everything day to day. And then all of a sudden something big happens, and sometimes it's just something that happens to us, like an illness or a car accident, or, the rest of the world goes on and you're laid up with a broken leg. In this case, it's encompassing the rest of the world, but we're going to get through it. History has shown that our ancestors went through plagues and survived. And I mean, it's going to be different, but that doesn't mean it's going to be a bad different.
That's how I feel about it too. And we have a lot of positive comments here too. Joshua had a couple. It doesn't mean that it's easy. It means that it's going to be, I have 100% success rate of getting through my worst days. 100% I've gotten through them. So, I mean, just look for the things in there. And like you said, you could learn a totally new skill. You can take classes that you've wanted to for years that you couldn't afford or didn't have the time for. So I think there's a lot of really incredible things that are happening, and a lot of camaraderie. People are really coming together in unique and different ways. So there's some
too. Yeah. What Lauren had just said, I believe that too.
Me too. I believe that too, Lauren.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think ultimately we only like change when we're the ones that initiate it. No one likes change thrust upon them. It's like the whole thing, again, I like staying at home. I don't like going out and socializing, but now that I'm kind of being told that I shouldn't go out and socialize, it's like, yeah, I don't like that so much. My routine hasn't changed, but it's like, oh, come on, But so people have that adjustment period when all of a sudden change is thrust upon them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's scary. I'm not saying that it's not
it
scary
is.
or uncertain or chaotic or nerve-wracking, or there aren't things that I'm concerned about. I'm saying set that aside, and what can we do that's better? How can we make this better? Or utilize every good thing in it. And so, like, look at us being resources. What?
Everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that there's a lot of museums. I saw an article, and because I'm going to be online schooling, which I'm actually excited about. We've talked about it for a couple of years. I'm like, well, this is forcing us to make that decision, isn't it? All righty again. I guess we're homeschooling again. So, I mean, there are museums that are doing online. There's just so much out there that we can do. So,
and thankfully, we have this online presence and community to be able to at least get some interaction with. That helps a great deal.
A lot.
If you have
there's so much we can take advantage of now that even 20 years ago we couldn't. If this had happened 20 years ago,
right?
So there, so many opportunities.
I want to send a shout out to, if you have school-age children in elementary school, there is a local Vegas author and mom. She runs a YouTube channel called Science Mom, and she is amazing. And she is doing quarantine every single day, little math and science lessons on YouTube that are geared towards elementary age students. And it's great.
Thank you. See, I mean, we are resources for each other. We need to use each other that way, So now I have
I don't
now
know.
I have a science thing.
Katie, so you can talk about Katie, and I can't hear it at all.
There's a YouTube channel from a woman in Vegas called Science Mom, and she does science stuff every single day for kids with people with elementary school kids. So
I don't know where Jason went.
Yeah, he just disappeared. So
I just got my low battery signal on my phone.
Yeah, me too.
Well, we are actually at 1 hour, so we're at the end of our regular show time. And I know you can't hear me, Kristen, but thank you guys for being here today. And we would love to have you back. So anytime that you'd want to come back on, just shoot us a message and we'll get you on the schedule. Yes. Jane, is there anything you want to say?
No, just thank you for coming on. And I think hopefully we help some people get out of their own heads today. So.
Well, thanks for having me. It's always fun to
Thanks. It's been really fun.
Yeah.
You guys are welcome.
2 hour special. Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, if my internet was working properly.
I need you to translate.
We'll be back.
If her internet was working properly, she could do it 2 hours.
Yeah.
You guys remember, hit the like button, share, and we'll see you again next week on Saturday. Thanks for watching.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
She's